KTVE NBC 10, voted Best Newscast for 4 straight years. And now, your Billy Wood Honda forecast first.
Some daytime clouds kind of drifting in on the back of some southerly and southeasterly winds, but aside from that, lots of sunshine across the region and temperatures still well above normal for this time of year. Lows tonight will be falling back into the mid-60s under varying degrees of clouds. We'll call it mostly clear to partly cloudy, and then partly to mostly cloudy skies through the day tomorrow with afternoon highs in the mid to upper 80s. At your forecast first, NBC 10 News at 5 starts now.
Live from the NBC 10 Broadcast Center, this is your ArkLaMis news source. Voted Best Newscast and Best Weather by the Louisiana Association of Broadcasters. This is NBC 10 News, live at 5.
Good evening and thank you for joining us. I'm Kyla Scott. Our top story tonight, a Catahoula Parish man is arrested after a missing woman's body is found on his property. The sheriff's office received a missing person complaint about 55-year-old Tia Renee Wiley Adams of Jonesville. During the investigation, detectives began searching areas around Jonesville for Adams. As the investigation continued, detectives got a tip that Adams could possibly be the victim of a homicide. Authorities made contact with 53-year-old George Thomas Jr. Detectives searched Thomas's home on Stella Street. They found a woman's body in a container behind the home. An autopsy identified the victim as Adams. Thomas is charged with second-degree murder. Well, Faraday residents are asking city officials for help with roaming dogs that have become a concern. This comes after a handicapped man was attacked by 2 dogs earlier in September. NBC 10's Valerie Moravi spoke to citizens about this issue. She joins us live in the studio with their response. Hey, Valerie.
That's right, Kyla. Well, neighbors tell me they're afraid to walk on the streets, especially at night, because they're scared dogs might be running loose.
Straight, I make them run to the store, I'm gonna hover around, but I don't go anywhere because I don't never know where they're at.
Jacob Taylor says the incident occurred on September 4th. He says he was running errands on his mobility chair when the dog suddenly attacked him.
I got right on the corner of Georgia Avenue and 7th Street. These dogs, they just come out the middle of nowhere, out this man's yard. I was trying to fight them all, but it wasn't nothing I can do because I'm in this hover around, I'm handicapped. And the pit bull bit me on my leg right here.
Taylor was taken to Trinity Medical Center for treatment. There, he got 25 stitches on his leg.
The nurse that was in there, they was in there working on my leg. She said, it's a lot of dog bites coming out of there. They biting small children, women, men just walking down the road.
18-year-old Zariante Holmes was recently walking on the street when the dogs jumped on him and bit him.
It was a black and brown dog. That's the one that bit me. So boom, after they bit me, it was 2 of them. It also was a black one and white one too. Yeah, I was bleeding right here.
According to the neighbors, a complaint about the dogs being unleashed and roaming around the neighborhood has been filed, but they say nothing has been done.
They didn't do something with these dogs. They really do.
Yeah, I had to wait till my wife or even my daughter and them get in the evening time from work, you know, just to pick up something from the store, you know, and that's kind of blocking my freedom though. You know, I'm not free enough. The dog is in more control of the town than the people.
Now, the city of Faraday currently doesn't have an animal ordinance in place. I reached out to the Faraday Police Department, but they haven't returned our calls. Reporting live in the studio, and Valerie Moravi for your ArkLaMis news source.
All right, thank you so much, Valerie, for that report. Well, a 51-year-old man is behind bars accused of traveling to meet a minor. Chris Custer is accused of communicating with the juvenile online about sex and drugs. Concordia Parish sheriffs tell us Custer made the plans to drive to the child's home and sneak the child away from the home. He was met by detectives and taken into custody. Investigators say Custer had a firearm, suspected meth, 2 types of prescription pills, and hypodermic needles. He's charged with indecent behavior with juvenile and drug charges. Cleanup is underway after yesterday's fatal pileup on a Louisiana highway. Drone video, as you're about to see, shows the extent of the damage still left behind. At least 7 people were killed and 30 others injured in the massive pileup. At least 2 18-wheelers erupted into flames. Cars and trucks were stacked on top of each other, and 1 vehicle was pushed over the railing and into the water below the interstate. Louisiana State Police said the number of fatalities may increase as first responders continue to clear the crash scene and search for victims. Well, as 2 more hostages are released from Hamas control, Israeli-American Galia Mazari awaits the fate of her 4 kidnapped family members and attends the funeral for 2 of her cousins who were murdered in the Hamas terror attack. She spoke exclusively with NBC's Alice Barr about the excruciating experience.
New images of 2 released hostages show the elderly Israeli women being transferred from Hamas custody to Israeli forces. 85-year-old Yocheved Lifshitz says she was treated relatively well in captivity after going through hell.
My mom is telling the horrific stories. She's saying that many people, a swarm of people, came through the fence.
Their appearance like a mirage for the more than 200 families still waiting for word of their loved ones kidnapped by Hamas.
They're going to push our buttons because they know how precious all these lives are and how desperately we want them all back.
American Galia Mizrahi has 4 family members among the hostages. 2 more were murdered in the October 7th terror attacks. She traveled from Los Angeles to Israel and attended the funerals, complete with a military procession.
I wonder if you feel of 2 worlds or how this has maybe reshaped some of your views and your feelings.
As terrible as it is to be here right now and how as exhausting and sad, there are also moments of such beauty and how people have gotten together.
Amid urgent hostage negotiations, Secretary of State Antony Blinken at the UN Security Council calling for the first time for a pause in Israel's aerial bombardment of the Gaza Strip to get hostages and Palestinian civilians to safety and let humanitarian aid in.
Humanitarian pauses must be considered for these purposes.
President Biden saying today food, water, and medicine are not getting into Gaza quickly enough amid desperate shortages of supplies and a medical system on the brink of collapse. In Washington, Alice Barr, NBC News.
Now to a news update. After a deal was made to slow down the clemency hearing process for the majority of people on Louisiana's death row, faith leaders are now condemning that move. Over 100 people signed on to a letter that was delivered to the Attorney General's office calling for the death row inmates sentenced to life in prison. One reverend talked about how people have been wrongfully sentenced to death, and clemency is a way to check and balance that legal system.
Attorney General Landry, now governor-elect, DA Hiller Moore, and other DAs maneuvered and interfered with the fully lawful clemency process.
In August, the governor sent a letter asking the Louisiana Board of Pardons to consider clemency for 56 death row inmates. But after the pardon board reached a settlement, only 5 cases were heard and all were denied clemency hearings. In other news, the city of Monroe celebrates phase 1 of an infrastructure project. Mayor Friday Ellis and city officials held a ribbon cutting for the completion of the Young's Bayou Retention Pond. The project is a flood mitigation effort for the surrounding areas. We spoke with a District 3 council member about the impact this will have during certain severe weather events.
Now we've got a place for the water to run off. So now we're prepared that if we get this unprecedented rain come in here again, we got somewhere for this water to go. So this is a great day for Monroe, Louisiana, and District 3 and the Boogatee community in particular.
The retention pond will be located off Elm Street near the Roy Neal Schelling Senior Elementary School. West Monroe's Recycling Center is celebrating a green milestone. Today marks the 5th year the center is working with Recycling Partnership. Since opening in 2018, 1.5 million pounds of recycling material has been collected. We spoke with an official about the continued efforts of this environmentally friendly initiative.
It's incredibly important because glass is heavy and it does take up a lot of space. So when that goes into our landfill, you know, it's just increasing the volume of trash to our landfills. So the other really neat thing about this glass grinder is it grinds it down into sand, which is then reused in sandbags for different uses around the city, for flood control.
The recycling center is located at 901 Lincoln Street behind the police office. It accepts plastics, cardboard, aluminum cans, metal cans, and glass. Well, coming up, the gavel still hasn't been passed for House Speaker and another bowed out. We'll have the latest.
Another warm afternoon across the area and lots of sunshine as you take a look at the newly deemed Bayou Kubota Tower Cam. Warm day ahead again tomorrow. Full look at the forecast as NBC 10 News at 5 continues.
NBC 10 and Fox 14 is the source for local news in the ArkLaMiss, and we're looking to add to our newsroom. We're looking for multimedia journalists passionate about telling stories of people of the ArkLaMiss. Whether you were just starting out or experienced in getting the whole story, we want to hear from you. Scan the code on your screen to apply. Come be a part of our award-winning team dedicated to honest and accurate journalism. Let's tell the story of the ArkLaMiss together.